Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel many a time before. I've had some really nice and very interesting and quirky beers from these guys over the years, and I think it's fair to describe these guys as one of the most recognisable Swedish craft beer brands at the moment. So this brewery really made their name when it came to introducing a lot of random flavours into their beers, mainly through flavour essences. But that said, their more kind of purist offerings, if we can call them that, have also been really nicely done beers in my opinion, and I've reviewed a good few of those for you on the channel over the years as well. So yeah, for this review we are going to head up to Stockholm once again, the Swedish capital, and we're having a look at yet another beer from Omnipollo, and this is one of the latest offerings from their Bianca series. So the Bianca series, for those of you who don't know, is a series that they do of big kind of fruity, sweet goses, but this one in particular is the Quadruple Lingonberry Maple Pancake Lassi Gose. Bit of a mouthful, but it comes in at 6% ABV. I think you know what style this one is, and this beer was released here in Sweden through Systembolaget as part of the Tillfällig temporary assortment on the 2nd of March 2021. It was released along with the Apricot Almond Deep Lassi Gose, if I remember the name of that one rightly. And yeah, that was an interesting one because it was the first one that I'd had in this series that wasn't actually hazy, but this is the fourth beer now that I'm reviewing from the Bianca series, and you will see another one coming up very shortly actually. So yeah, definitely curious to see how this one turns out. I've not had too many beers with lingonberries in them. They're very popular of course in the Nordic countries, but yeah, I think this one could be a very interesting beer. And yeah, always nice to feature Omnipollo on the channel of course as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy my take on this one, and hopefully it makes for an interesting review. So let's see how we get on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Omnipollo before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Omnipollo then, on to my brewery notes once again. So Omnipollo, as I've told you in previous reviews, was founded back in 2011 by Henrik Fenty, who's a long-time homebrewer, and Carl Grandin, who is a clothing designer. So the two met, and then one day they started talking about how insular the Swedish craft beer scene was, as well as the beer scene abroad. But on the basis of this, they decided they wanted to start a brewery, and that they wanted to kind of reinvigorate the craft beer scene, both from a kind of stylistic sense and from a gastronomic sense. So they felt that this partnership between a home brewer and a kind of clothing designer was actually very logical. And you have to say, they've built a really kind of unique style of brewing out of this, and you know, also a really kind of unique design sense from it as well actually. You know, the Omnipollo artwork is really well thought of actually, and their beers kind of speak for themselves, to be honest with you. They are very random but also very good. But the name Omnipollo is derived from omnipotent chicken, so Omnipollo, pollo being the Spanish for chicken. But these guys were originally gypsy brewers, and they stayed as such until 2020. So their first kind of bar that they had, if you like, was the Omnipollo's Hat in Stockholm, which was a collaboration with Pizza Hut. This became very popular in the city. I have been there twice, if I remember rightly. They've got some really nice pizzas there, as well as having some Omnipollo beers that you can't really find anywhere else. So I do recommend that you visit that place, and I will see about filming an out and about video there at some point. And they've also got a couple of other bars these days as well. So there's one in Hamburg, down in Germany. There's one in Gothenburg over on the Swedish west coast, and then they've just opened up one in Tokyo in Japan as well. So I will make sure that I go there and film an out and about video at Omnipollo Tokyo as well at some stage. It looks their little bar that they have down there looks or up or over there I should say, looks very nice actually. But yeah, we'll see about visiting the one in Gothenburg at some stage and the one in Hamburg. when I get a chance. But in March of 2020 they announced that they would open their own brewery in Sundbyberg, which is kind of to the northwest of central Stockholm, and it's actually in a former church which had previously been home to Sundbyberg's Köksbryggeri. And they apparently started off with a brewing capacity of around 100,000 litres of beer per year, but they are working at the moment to expand that to 600,000 litres of beer per year, and at the same time they're still brewing a number of their beers in different places. I know that a number of the stouts have been brewed at Dugas Brewery in Gothenburg, and I think they have been brewing I think they've brewed quite a few things at Lervig Brewery up in Norway as well, but a good chunk of their beer is brewed at the De Proef Brewery in Christihifte near Ghent down in Belgium, and I think that's where this beer was brewed in fact. But as of March 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced in the region of 350 different kinds of beer, and they are a very prolific brewery. So yeah, what I would recommend, if you're going to try some classic beers from these guys, probably the Noah is a good one to get a taste of their kind of big sweet stouts that they do. The Fata Morgana is a lovely sort of New England type IPA, and then you've also got the Nebuchadnezzar, which is a really, really good West Coaster actually. I'm not sure if that's still available in Sweden, I will need to check that out, but yeah, those are probably my 3 recommendations that I would have if you're just starting off with Omnipollo. They've got some really interesting stuff. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Omnipollo for the moment. As I say, a very, very well respected brewery, and really kind of random and unique in terms of their style. But that, well, maybe it's not fair to say unique anymore, because I think quite a few breweries have been influenced by what Omnipollo have done over the years. So there's quite a lot of breweries producing kind of big sweet pastry stouts and stuff like this, as well as these big sweet fruity goses and things. So yeah, Omnipollo are one of the ones who really started this whole idea of kind of flavour essence brewing, if you like, which is an interesting style of brewing. But yeah, as I say, that's all I can really tell you about Omnipollo for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. I think it should be interesting. But yeah, just let you have a little look at the artwork then before we open up. As you can see, this one is a little bit different compared to the artwork that we've had from the Bianca series before, because normally it's usually just one big feather that goes up across the can. So this one's got lots of little feathers kind of floating around on it, which is pretty cool. And there you can see the little bit of data on the can in the back, but the little viewfinder screen is kind of reflecting off the can there a little bit. Let me just tip that so that you can kind of see it properly. But yeah, there you go. So this one, as I said to you at the start of the video, is a 6% Gose, if you like. So the Gose, of course, is a style of beer that originates in Germany. They used to put these beers in the cellars and then put them into the bottles and let them ferment. You know, the whole thing, you used to get a big froth covering over it, but they usually have a little bit of salt in them as well, actually. But yeah, this one, it does contain lactose, so this will be a really kind of big creamy one, I would think. But yeah, wheat and lactose in this one, and of course the Gose is a wheat-based beer in terms of its malt base. But yeah, really nicely presented. This beer was a little bit more expensive. I think I paid like 120, maybe 120. I want to say 124. But these Bianca beers tend to be in the region of 110 to 125 Swedish kroner. So to translate that, that is roughly, you know, £11.50, I would think. €12.50, and so I guess maybe about $14. The US dollar's a little bit weaker just now. So yeah, this is a pretty expensive beer. I usually get these ones as a bit of a treat, but if you actually buy these on the Omnipollo web shop, they cost about 18, 19 euros, which I think is a bit too much, to be honest, for it. You know, it's fair enough, you know, for about 18 euros for one can of this, I think is a bit much, especially when it's only a kind of 6%, if you like. I mean, when it's all the flavour essences and stuff, I don't think these beers would be overly expensive to make, but you know, I could be missing out something in terms of the you know, in terms of the brewing process of this particular beer or something. But compared to the other ones that you get from Omnipollo, I think these beers are particularly expensive, and I'm not sure exactly why they're so expensive, even compared to some of the other ones like the big imperial stouts and stuff like this. So yeah, something to think about for sure. But yeah, 6%. This one, Quadruple Lingonberry Maple Pancake Lassi Gose, part of the Bianca series, half litre beer. So let's get it out and into the glass then. I'm very curious to see what this one has in store for us, and I'm curious to see whether it's going to be hazy as well, like the last one that we had. Well, the last one that we had wasn't, so yeah, curious to see whether this is going to be a bit more hazy or more kind of transparent. And I have to say, it actually looks a little bit more transparent. Let me just sugar it up a little bit in the can and just check. I know it does have a degree of haze to it for sure, but yeah, you can smell that kind of pastry type thing underneath it. Definitely, you probably can classify this as a pastry sour. So yeah, let me just reposition the can there, and there we are. So yeah, as you can see with this beer, we'll look at the head first before that disappears. You can see it's got a finger of a frothy, kind of pinky purple head on that. Just look at that, the colour on this head is really interesting. But yeah, you often get this with these big kind of sweet, fruity sour type of beer. You often get really random colours out of these. So if you shine the light through this one, it is almost like a kind of burgundy, maroon sort of thing. For the Scots amongst you in the audience, like a kind of Heart of Midlothian football shirt almost. I've gotten in trouble for saying that from the Hibs fans. I know there's a couple of Hibs fans like to watch the channel, but yeah, this beer it's almost like a kind of red winey type colour actually. But yeah, there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and I would say that this one is, yeah, definitely a hazy beer. This, you can definitely see that the wheat, I think, is playing a role in this one. Even if you shine the light through this, you don't actually get it just doesn't have clarity. This is a kind of opaque beer, which is normally what these Bianca beers are actually. The last one, the what was it, the apricot almond vanilla Lassi Gose, deep Lassi Gose, was clear. That was just really random to have a clear Bianca beer actually. But yeah, this one is back to what I would normally expect of these beers. But yeah, lovely kind of burgundy maroon sort of colour, this one. Heart of Midlothian football shirt. So yeah, certainly looks the part actually. I have to say though, when it's lingonberries, I might have thought this, I would have thought that this one might have been a little bit brighter and a little bit kind of more red in its colour when you think about the colour of lingonberries themselves, but I'm trying to remember what colour the lingonberry jam is. I think it is actually still a quite bright red, but then you've got the whole maple pancake sort of thing going on in here, so there's maybe some darker malts in the beer as well. But yeah, this one I think will be a pretty interesting beer. So when you can smell the whole kind of cakey pastry sort of thing coming out of this beer as you sort of move it around. But yeah, in terms of appearance, looks like one of these big kind of pastry sour type things that you're going to get, so it's not overly surprising. I'm just surprised a little bit at how dark and maroon this kind of beer is, but I think that's most likely to be attributed to some of the malts that will be in here, complementing the different kind of adjuncts and flavour essences and stuff. But yeah, you can see the head has just faded away a little bit to leave you a nice kind of thin foamy layer, but there's a nice big kind of foamy ring around the edge of the glass there. But overall, it looks pretty nice. So let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one then and just see how we get on with this beer. I think this is going to be really quite interesting, so let's go for it. Yeah, when they say pancake in this one, that's definitely true. It really just smells like some of these pancakes that you'd make from the pancake mix. I used to eat that a bit too much in Japan actually. My girlfriend always loved some really nice pancakes. Yeah, they had a great pancake mix in Japan. But yeah, it really reminds me of that. So the basis of this beer, you can smell that sort of pancake batter type thing in it, and you can definitely smell that kind of the maple syrup kind of mixed in with that as well. It's got that kind of glazed maple, that glazed brown sugary type quality out of that. So yeah, when Omnipollo say that something is intended as a pancake or a maple syrup sort of thing, you certainly get that out of it. Lassi, of course, I always enjoy a good lassi with a curry. Love lassi. Indian sort of, I don't know what they actually make lassi out of. It's like an Indian yogurty kind of drink. I love it. I don't get so much of the lassi side of things in this. If you take the aroma in a bit more deeply, you can get a little bit of it. But yeah, it's definitely all about the pancakes and the maple syrup in this one. So you can smell that pancake quality being a little bit, sort of being the base of the beer. You can smell the sort of maple syrup just kind of sitting on top of that, and then you get the whole kind of you get, if you take the aroma in a bit more deeply, you get a little bit of the lassi kind of yogurty type thing out of it too. But there's definitely elements of, you know, kind of pastry and stuff like that in it. There's definitely a wee bit of a kind of, I do almost get a little bit of a kind of chocolatey vibe to this beer as well, a bit like a kind of slightly powdered chocolatey sort of thing, like in Sweden, the old boy thing, or maybe, you know, in for other places like Nesquik, you know, that powdery stuff that you put into to make hot chocolate, or, you know, chocolate milk. It's kind of a little bit like that. It's got a sort of dry, powdery kind of chocolatey note to it, which is interesting. So yeah, the aroma of this beer, I think, is really, really interesting. But yeah, it's pancakes all the way, some maple syrup, and then, you know, you've got everything else in there. It's a lovely, lovely tasting beer, a lovely smelling beer, I should say. I keep doing that in videos. I keep mixing up taste and smell. It's terrible. But yeah, the malty side of this beer and the adjuncty side of the beer is very, very nice. In terms of a green component of this beer, many of these kind of big fruity pastry sour type things don't really have hops added into them, but I think there's always a little bit of placebo effect with these where you can pick up some green elements. So I mean, I get a little touch of earthiness out of this one and a little bit of grassiness. I don't really get a floral component, but yeah, for me there is a little bit of a kind of grassy sort of thing, a little bit of earthiness, and yeah, I think that kind of goes together really interestingly. One of the things that you can always tell about these sour beers as well is whether the fruits that are put into them, whether the fruits that are put in there are you know, real fruit, or whether it's flavour essence. But quite often I think Omnipollo use a little bit of real fruit and also a little bit of flavour essence. I think they do both in here. So the flavour essence gives you the more kind of candied edge to the fruit, if you like, but I think this one does have a mix of both, to be honest with you, because when you take the aroma in, you can definitely smell the sort of proper juiciness and that little bit of almost kind of plant mattery type thing out of it. You do get a wee touch of that mixing in with the fruit. So I think there is real fruit in this, in a sense, and though that would explain the colour of the beer as well. So there's definitely some real lingonberries in here, but I think there is a wee touch of lingonberry sort of flavour essence in the beer as well, just to kind of give it that more candied edge. I could be wrong on that, but I think the fact that you get a little bit of candied fruit in it, it does kind of indicate there's a wee bit more there. But yeah, it's lingonberries all the way. Lingonberries are a really difficult kind of thing to describe, actually. So they're usually, they're, in my experience, they've got a little bit of the kind of light, juicy sort of vibe that you might get from strawberries. They can, in some cases, be very, very sharp as well. But they've got that kind of juiciness you'd expect of like a strawberry or some sort of currant, but they can just have a little bit of sharpness to them as well. This one doesn't really smell overly sharp. It does come across as very smooth and very juicy in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's a really interesting aroma that you get out of this, because the fruits in this one really do take a little bit of a back seat in comparison to the other ones that I can remember in the Bianca series. So yeah, I think it might just be the fact that the lingonberry is not such a pungent fruit in terms of its aroma and things, but you know, if you try it on its own, it can be a pretty, you know, sharp and zippy sort of fruit, if you like. So yeah, definitely take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it. There are a few other little kind of fruity elements in there, you know, a little bit of a kind of black curranty sort of thing, maybe a little bit of red currant as well and stuff like this. But yeah, if you know, lingonberries are not such a common fruit to kind of have in your knowledge repertoire, if you like, but they are very interesting. So have a go at some lingonberry juice and see what you make of it. It's a really quirky fruit, but very popular in the Nordic countries. But yeah, take a bit of time to ponder over the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it, but we're going to taste this one now and just see how we get on. So this one is the Bianca Quadruple Lingonberry Maple Pancake Lassi Gose, coming in at 6% ABV from Omnipollo in Stockholm, brewed at the De Proef Brewery in Lochristenhoofde down in Ghent in Belgium. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers. And there it is, yeah. Damn, yeah, that's the zip of the lingonberries. Oof. I tell you something. That hits you like a train. Damn. Oh, that's going to take a wee bit of getting used to. That's definitely the sharpest of the... I was wondering when that was going to come in. You know, the thing is, I was wondering when the lingonberry was going to show its its sharpness. You know, they do get very juicy, but yeah, they can have a hell of a zip to them. I didn't quite expect it to be that kind of sharp, if you like, but yeah, that is a bit crazy. Let's just say that is a little bit crazy. Yeah, that's kind of that's a bit mental. That's definitely the sharpest and most kind of puckering member of the Bianca family that I've had already. But remember, as I always say with sours, you're always going to get a hell of an impact on some of them. So power through and just let the beer mellow out a little bit. Yeah, that's a lot better on the second tasting. But yeah, be prepared for that. The sourness and zippiness of that beer is going to hit you pretty hard when you first take it, and even on the second sip, the lingonberries really linger there. Yeah, damn, it's crazy. It really is crazy. Yeah, it's that's an interesting one for sure. Yeah, I'd love to, let me know what you think about the kind of sourness in this beer. When you in the comment section below, I'd be curious to know what you guys think of this one. But that's definitely the zippiest and most kind of puckering one I've had from the Bianca series so far. Damn, it's crazy. Fucking hell, it kind of lingers there, definitely. That takes a good while to get used to, for sure. Oh, I can't think of a beer that I've had, a sour beer that I've had that is quite as puckering as this. This is going to take me a long time to kind of sip through this for sure, I think. Oh, I like it, but yeah, that's something else. That is something else, definitely. Damn, can feel it sort of moving my tongue all over the place in my mouth. But yeah, I do like this beer, but be aware, if you are not used to lingonberries, this one might be a little bit of a challenge for you, for sure. There we go, I think my mouth is a little bit more adjusted to this now. But it's interesting, when you take this beer in, it has a hell of a sharpness to it. And then it sort of mellows out a wee bit. You get more of the kind of pancake notes and all the kind of sweet sort of elements to it. But then the lingonberries just push their way out again. And it's almost like around, if you go around the edge of your tongue here and you just move inside very slightly, you can feel like a ring of lingonberry. It's like a ring of sourness just sitting around, just inside the edge of your palate. It's something else, that, jeez. Just craziness. This has to be one of the most well, not the most random, but definitely one of the most puckering beers I've ever reviewed. So kudos to Omnipollo for doing something a little bit different. But yeah, Quadruple Lingonberry. That's brave when you think about it. I mean, lingonberries, I've always found them to be a little bit sharp, but Quadruple Lingonberry might be pushing the boundary a little bit. Maybe they need to rethink. Maybe they need to rethink this beer as like a double lingonberry or something. Maybe double is enough. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this beer and describe it for you. As I've said in previous reviews, when it comes to these kind of big sweet sour beers, quite a lot of the time these beers are very straight shooting in terms of their flavour profile, but the flavours just work out really nicely. And I think, in fairness, this one is a beer that is quite like that. It does what it says on the can. It gives you the things that you expect in the can, but there are one or two little interesting things to it, definitely. So like I say, when you take this beer in, it's puckering as fuck. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, when you take it in, you get that really, really just sharp lingonberry thing. But when the lingonberries start to juice out a little bit, you can really appreciate the flavour of them, but we'll come back to that in a little minute. So the middle of your palate, you get that thick sort of American pancake batter sort of thing. That blankets the middle of your palate. What you're going to notice with that is that as you progress further into the flavour of the beer, you do get a bit of an impression of, you definitely get a little bit of a kind of impression of a kind of dried powdery chocolate, like I was talking about with like I was sort of talking about with Oh Boy or Nesquik, sort of chocolate milk powder kind of things. It's definitely got an element of that to it. Yeah, definitely got a little bit of that in there. Yeah, the flavour profile in this is yeah, quite straight shooting. So yeah, pancake batter base in the middle of your palate, sort of drier chocolatey kind of note coming out of it, but you will feel as you move out from the centre of your palate towards the edges of the tongue, you start to get some of the maple syrup coming out of the beer. It's definitely a little bit more, it's a little bit more sort of, it's a little bit more kind of sweeter towards the edge of the tongue in this, pardon me, towards the edge of the tongue in this beer. And if you go to the centre of your palate, you will get a nice, there is like a little bit more of a kind of concentrated maple syrup in the very centre of your palate, but it gradually gets a little bit more sort of biscuity almost as you move. It gets a little bit more kind of grainy and biscuity, McVitie's digestive, like as you move out towards the very edge of your tongue. But as you move forward from the centre of your palate, from the very, very centre of your palate, you will feel the beer, it develops a little bit of an almost kind of vanilla-like quality, which I think works really well on this one. So that sort of balances out the big kind of sweet nature of it. But yeah, I think the pancake thing really works in this. I don't get so much of the kind of lactosey lassi sort of thing out of this. There's maybe a wee bit of it, but yeah, I think it's pancake batter. You get a bit of that kind of powdery chocolatey sort of thing coming out of it the further you go into the aftertaste, and then you've got the sweet kind of brown sugary elements in there too. So I do like how this one goes together, come to think of it. So yeah. But yeah, this is pretty interesting for sure. But yeah, I think it is pretty damn solid actually. This one is a beer, you have to let this mellow out, because some people will taste this and they'll be put off by the sourness in the beginning, but it's one of these beers that's maybe geared towards the kind of Nordic Scandinavian palate, if you like, because it's as I say, puckering as fuck is the only way you can kind of describe the level of sourness that you have in this one. The other ones that we've had in this series before have been, very rich and very smooth and, sweet, but none of them have had quite an impact in the same way that this one has. But yeah, the middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate, it's that pancake note all the way. You maybe do get, in that border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you maybe get a little touch of a more kind of grainy, slightly rye-ish kind of bread crusty kind of thing in there. But yeah, it's the pancake base all the way that comes out of this one. This is a very, very interesting, very interesting beer actually. So yeah, I do like how this goes together. It certainly grows on me, but like I say, pardon me, be aware of the impact that this beer's going to have. Just insane, mental. So yeah, you might notice one or two very slightly nutty undertones to the beer develop as well. Like sort of an almond pecan type thing. You do get a little bit of that. If you go to the front corners of your palate, then diagonally back, you will detect a few little kind of nutty traces coming out of the beer. But other than that, I don't think there's too much to say about the malty kind of middle of your palate with this beer. But yeah, in the back corners of the tongue, there's a little bit of earthiness there. For sure, as I said, this beer doesn't have hops in it. It doesn't come across as overly creamy either, come to think of it. So this one has lactose in it, but I don't find this beer to be overly kind of creamy. But in fairness, I think maybe the lactose is giving you a little bit of that vanilla type flavour that evolves out of the beer. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate, there's definitely a little bit of an earthiness there. And as you move further forward, it does have a wee touch of a slightly herbal quality on the front kind of, in the middle of your palate there, and then it's got a wee tiny floral element to it on the front corners of the palate, but round the front curve of the tongue, it's distinctly lighter and a little bit more sort of grassy for sure. But it's not, as I say, that's placebo. You've not got hops in this beer, so these flavours are just kind of lingering there almost. So yeah, this is a very, very interesting beer for sure. I really like how all of that kind of pieces together. But yeah, I'm finding now, having drank what, maybe about 100 mils of this thing, I'm finding now that it is starting to mellow out a little bit more, and just get a little bit more kind of juicy, which is great. But yeah, let's focus on that fruity side of the beer then. So in that border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you can feel the sort of pancake batter just thickening up a wee bit. It gets a little bit more bread crusty, which I really like. And then underneath the front third of your palate, you've got a very nice kind of smooth, pancakey batter sort of thing in there as well. So yeah, that forms the base of the fruity side of the beer. But what you're going to notice is that on top of that pancakey batter sort of thing, there is a soft sort of kind of figgy element to the beer. There's a wee bit of a kind of juicy strawberry type note. You know, maybe a sort of currant type thing on the front half of the tongue as well, like, you know, a mix of, you know, a little bit of black currant, a little bit of red currant, something like that. Maybe even cranberry is another thing that kind of comes to mind. So you've got these softer kind of red fruity type notes sitting there just on top of the pancake batter. But the thing, the lingonberry, as I say, these kind of flavours that I'm describing sort of compose the lingonberry. It is straight up lingonberry, but in these sour beers you're always going to get a few elements of a couple of other things going on in there. But yeah, you definitely get that big sharp puckering thing coming in just behind the front of the tongue, and it takes a while for this beer to just sort of juicen up and mellow out a little bit. The impact on this beer is mental, it's absolutely crazy. So yeah, this is definitely the most kind of sour puckering member of the Bianca family that we've had so far. But on that note, I think that's probably as much as we can describe from the flavour of this one. I think it's just a crazy beer, this one, and I'm going to be sharing this with my friend once I'm finished filming this review. That's crazy, it is just mental. But yeah, this is definitely a sharing can, this one. Don't try to drink this yourself, because it's you know, it will take you a good while to go through this, but you know, it's a sipping beer in that case. Definitely a sipper, this one. But yeah, I think that covers the flavour profile as much as we should. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, what can we say about this one? So I would describe this beer as being at the top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth in this one. It's got a nice kind of slickness to the mouthfeel, little touch of oiliness, but quite slick, little touch oily. And then, you know, it's got it goes down once it juicens up. Once it kind of juicens up and mellows out a little bit, you can really appreciate this one a little bit more. In terms of bitterness and things, you know, I think technically speaking this beer will have no IBUs, but you know, I think probably in reality it'll have somewhere in the region of like 2, 3, 4, 5, something like this. There will be a little bit of bitterness to this beer, because you do get a wee bit of bitterness from the malty side of things, especially the further you go into the aftertaste, and it sort of gives you just a little bit of bitterness from the kind of dried powder, if you like. But the malt base, as I say, is very smooth and very thick. When it's got lactose in it, you would kind of expect that, but you get more sweetness out of this beer as you progress further into the aftertaste. You also get a little bit of dryness, tiny touch of bitterness, like I say. But this beer is puckering as fuck, as I've repeated a few times. This is just mental. It's just absolutely crazy, the level of sourness you get out of this one compared to the other Omnipollos that we've had in the past. So yeah, this one is pretty interesting in that regard. And even when I think of the blueberry ones, because blueberries will give you a bit of tartness, and the next Bianca that we're going to look at is blueberry based. So yeah, this thing is just a little bit mental actually. But it's a really nice beer, but definitely a sharer one. And I would say, yeah, share this with a friend and just enjoy it, sip on it, and ponder it over. But yeah, on that note, I think that's as much as we can say about this beer. This one, I think, is a very interesting concoction, and definitely one of the quirkiest beers, if not the quirkiest beer that I've had from Omnipollo thus far. So yeah, let's leave it at that. So this one was the Omnipollo Bianca Quadruple Lingonberry Maple Pancake Lassi Gose. Hell of a mouthfeel, that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review despite its slightly longer length. But yeah, I enjoyed trying this beer. Definitely sort of eye-opening experience to what lingonberries can actually do. But this is one of the sourest beers that I've ever reviewed, one of the most sour beers I've ever reviewed. here on the channel, so just be aware of that if you're thinking about buying this one for yourself. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Omnipollo, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point very soon. So until the next time, thank you for watching. Slanger just now, and I'll catch you guys later. The Omnipollo Bianca Quadruple Lingonberry Maple Pancake Lassi Gose, 6%, and it's just an absolute sour monster. Slàinte, skull, cheers, see you guys in the next review. Number 2750 tomorrow, and we've got a special beer for it. Cheers.